Hello, it's Rachel Haskins with Ideally Crazy, and today my special guest is
Fleming
from Sowing Seeds of Faith. So I'll let Demaria introduce herself a little bit and tell us a little bit about Sowing Seeds of Faith.
Fleming started Sowing Seeds with Faith in 2017, out of school academic enrichment program that was designed really to help perpetuate JCPS students outside of school time. So summer camps, winter break, fall break, spring break, any break they had, our goal was to take that break from them, enrich it with empowerment, engagement, and opportunities and access and exposure, and give them something they've never seen and or heard of, and apply some kind of academic accountability and success beside that.
Okay, that's dope. And so I found out about Sowing Seeds of Faith through a coworker. I had heard of it before because my son was in the program, and I had tried to get my daughter into the program, but I hadn't really figured it out. And I think I sent her to she was supposed to go to the sneaker ball last year, but she ended up going this year. The last year she got in a little bit of trouble, and so I took it away from her. But this year she was able to go, and one of my coworkers seen me like decorating her shoes for the ball because I bedazzled her shoes for the ball. And she asked me, she was like, well, what are you doing that for? And I told her. And so she had a child that was in the program. And so she was able to connect me with Mr. Fleming so that I could enroll my daughter into the program. And so so far, so good. Like I love all the things. Like today she just came from one of the college writing essays for the HBCU tour. Right. And so I love all the preparation that I see that it does for the youth, especially the ones that are getting ready to go away, which is dope. Oh, so you guys know I don't like a lot of small talk. We're going to get right into our questions. Can you tell us about your childhood and how those early experiences shaped your passion for working with youth?
Sure. I grew up in Douglas Park Apartments out 3rd Street. I was the youngest of 3, so I'm the baby. And what I do remember about Douglas Park is that it was definitely community driven. It was one of the earlier projects, probably income-based housing, but I don't remember it being more like a poverty-stricken area. It was more of an opportunity. It was always something to do. It was a lot of kids. I mean, you loved on everybody. Everybody went to the same school. And it had a lot of village aspects to it. You seen parents loving on other people's kids, holding people's kids accountable. We had block parties. We all rode the school bus. We had a laundromat where people meet at, so we had a candy lady in the store in the neighborhood. We had the old guys in the back that would teach us how to, play cornhole and the horseshoe. So it had a lot of a village aspect to it. It was a community that taught you how to love on yourself, how to love your neighbor, how to show up, hold people accountable. And that became pivotal. That became a very instrumental aspect of my life. We moved out of Douglas Park in 97, 98 year into a neighborhood called Nicholas Meadows. Okay. So I lived in a neighborhood full of houses, but everything around the houses was apartments. Okay. So you had Watterson Lakeview, you had Greystone, you had Carpenters, you had Georgetown neighborhood, you had Nicholas Meadows apartments. So everything that surrounded us was apartments. So we still had like a community, right? It was still a neighborhood that was surrounded by a bunch of neighborhoods, and we was able to love on each other. We grew up in the neighborhood, played kickball, again, more block parties. And again, so that neighborhood concept became part of my everyday life. It was normal. And on top of that, being a child, my mom was very strict. So in the time we moved, my oldest brother was sentenced to 17 years in penitentiary. During that time, my mother also got a job at JCYC. So son going to penitentiary and then going to work in a youth detention jail, my mother's mentality shifted. She became a very, very strict 4'11", very instrumental person in my life to this day. She believed in minimal idle time. So me and my sister, she went to Butler, I went to Mill. She was very strict. We had perfect attendance kindergarten through 12th grade, numbers a day at school. No C's. I played sports. My mama didn't care about sports. She cared about academics. So it was a lot of accountability in those neighborhoods, very intentional with understanding your role in the neighborhood, the roles you played in the people around you. We didn't have any downtime. So every weekend, we had to be part of something. I was in Upper Bound. I was in Black Achievers. I was in Whitney Young Scholar. I was in Lincoln Foundation. I played youth league football, so my mother minimized idle time. Her thing was, if you don't find something to do with your time, I'll find something to do with your time. And her time was cleaning baseboards, pulling the refrigerator, inside the stove. So it was a neighborhood. It was a growing up understanding that you had to be involved with something on a consistent level.
Absolutely. So I kind of grew up a little bit of the same. I grew up between 26th and 28th and Grand. So my community, it was more so based out of, like, I grew up in a Pentecostal church on 23rd and Broadway, More Temple Church of God in Christ. So pretty much my community was there. We spent almost every day. So it was like Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, sometimes on Saturday, because my dad would have choir rehearsals, and then Sunday again. So we was in church like that. So that was my community. And so my mother, she pretty much did, like, when she would make sure that we were involved in everything in the church. So whether it was like step team, I started doing like oratorical contests, and that was like the first time, I remember that was the first time I was able to go on the plane, because I won this oratorical contest, and through a friend that she met that sent her back to school at U of L, Dr. Bonnie Marshall. She had enrolled me in this oratorical contest that allowed me to travel to Orlando, Florida, where I started doing oratorical, but that's off the subject. But like, that's how my mom kept me involved and like built up my guess. And I really do understand, like, watching every Saturday, my mother had this like little thing where we would have to wipe off all the little, how they have the little glass pieces and stuff on it. That was my job. The living room was my job, and I hated it because that was what I had to do. And so my parents definitely didn't believe any idle time. But to say idle time is the devil's workshop. And so that was, at a time it used to frustrate me, but now parenting, I do understand what you're saying, because kids are going to be busy doing something. They're either doing something good or doing something that is, helpful to them, or they're doing something that is destructive to them. So you do, as parents, you do have to make sure that you fill up as much of that time as you can. So our second question is, what inspired you to create Sowing Seeds with Faith, and what impact have you seen the program make in the lives of kids?
I was a school teacher. So I taught algebra and calculus and JCPS for a couple of years at Myers Middle School, and then 1 year at Shawnee High School. And I realized that teachers only teach maybe 10% of the time. The other 90% of the time, you might be an uncle, you might be a pastor, you might be a brother. You wore some kind of hat or title that didn't really necessarily require teaching. Understanding that, I realized there was a bigger need that needed to be met for kids socially and emotionally. So JCPS had actually fired me because I was not doing the teaching aspect of the job as I was contracted to do. I felt like there was more of a need. And then I started Sowing Seeds with Faith shortly after as a tutoring program to be a subsidiary of JCPS. Well, realizing that tutoring is really geared towards mentorship. If kids trust you, they listen to you. So if I can build up the trust, anything I teach or educate you, you're going to retain. So I understood the power and the relationship between mentoring and teaching, and so we became that. And I've watched this program grow. I've lost kids to the penitentiary system. I've lost kids to graveyards. I've lost kids to all kinds of things. But I can tell you, I've watched kids naturally mature and maturate different spaces and navigate certain spaces that I would have never been able to. In the military, we got college graduates. We got people on beauty salons and barbershops. We got people who are pilots. We got people who started apps now that are, millionaires and doing great things. So I know the impact is greater. I think the impact that is probably undervalued the most is just life itself. Giving kids life and life more abundantly, giving them access to resources, and teaching them how to be a blessing, even though while they're going through the storm themselves. So we have been able to do impactful things, and we've transitioned kids on what the difference between becoming important to being impactful, right? How do you make your name be the difference between life and death for people besides yourself? So that's the impact we plan to continue to make for generations to come.
That's dope. And I will certainly agree with you. Like, everything has a balance. Along with the bad is going to come the good. But anything God's in, like you said, you'll see more of the good than the bad. So you've helped these children and watched them grow, and they've taken on your spirit, so to say, and started their own ventures and went out there and like pour back into themselves. Because I always say that God is never gonna let you do something and you not reap the benefits of it. And so whatever you love and whatever you put your, your interest and your work into, because a lot of times we like to talk about faith, but what I like about you is that you believed in something and then you went out and you walked in it. So you put what you believe back into what you believe in. And actions always show you, while words are powerful, but your actions should always follow.
I think
your
that's
words.
the epitome of sowing seeds.
Absolutely.
I think this program was going to be called "I Don't Look Like What I've Been Through."
Okay.
And my godmom was like, "That ain't that chocolate. That's a lie. That's a lie. That's a sermon, and you don't want people to think that you're out here preaching."
Right.
Even though my godmom would say that if I had to be any character in the Bible, I'd have been Peter.
Okay.
And I didn't know nothing about Peter. So I looked him up in the line and on Google one day. I'm like, man, Peter was kind of rough. He cut somebody's ear off and he was cussing and he denied God. And I'm like, well, God, Mom, I don't know if I'm gonna be saying yeah, but everywhere Peter went, there was church because the church was Peter. And the guy said, upon this rock, and Peter was the rock. So you know what I mean. Understanding that the word is in you. So you don't need a pulpit, God. I mean, you don't need a pulpit, chocolate. It's like God gave you a platform. You can take it with you wherever you set that platform down. You can preach the word. So understanding that was the goal that God had for me, not that I have for myself.
Absolutely. And what I love about it is that you said a lot of people who don't really know the characters of the Bible or the people that God chose, they don't understand their backgrounds. But that's one thing. My daddy would read our Sunday school lessons, and he was so real about it. Like growing up, he never sugarcoated nothing. So I knew the characters in the Bible and I knew them well. My name actually comes from the Bible, Rachel. And so I knew my story. But I always look in the Bible and I find characters. I find myself in the characters of the Bible because sometimes it's not just even one of them.
Come on.
And then the ones that I love the most, I ask myself, why do I love those people the most? I love them because, anything that you can kind of see in yourself, you really can, if you love yourself, of course you're going to love it about that person.
Right.
So one of my favorites is David. And I think I love David so much because he was such a fighter. I always say to my whole family, everything I've had to get on my own, I've had to fight for it. I've never been able to just get something easier. And I remember one time my parents wanted him to be a little bit more docile. Because my dad, he'll be he don't mind, he kind of like it a little bit, but sometimes he do chill. But he was he said, I need y'all to understand that God put fight in, some people God put fight in, maybe it's not you. He said, but if he put it in her, I love my brother. If he put it in her, she's supposed to have it. And so leave her alone, basically. That we never know why God puts whatever he puts on the inside of somebody. But trust me, because he formed them, there's a reason why they have that. Right. You know what I'm saying? And that is for all your traits. And so when he said that, it started to make me think about myself. And, the show's called Ideally Crazy because accepting your good and your bad and looking at yourself through God's eyes. Yes, I am a fighter, but I've had to fight for everything I got. So without that spirit, how would I have gotten it? Sometimes I told my parents, I said, yes, I said, God said to speak to it. I said, and sometimes I have to speak a little stronger. Come on. So, but when I would go to God about it and I would cry, because, sometimes it ruffles feathers. And because you want to change, you want to do what's better. He would ask me, do I know what I asked him? And I remember the things that I asked him, and he would be like, Rachel, there's not really no sheep at the top. So whatever you got, I gave you, and you're going to need it.
Come on.
And so just fully accepting myself and seeing myself through God's eyes and understanding that the people that are drawn to me are going to be drawn to me, and they're my people, and the people that can't, well, they can't. What Bishop T.J. says is never be upset about somebody leaving me, because if they left, then they couldn't stay. So just even having that mindset, you're going to lose some people and some things, but if you lost them, they weren't meant to stay. And so let's go to the next question. As a single father, how has parenthood influenced the way you connect with and mentor young people?
I don't think there's a greater title than father. I was a young father, and my father was in my life. I'm not saying my dad was the best father because he wasn't a good father and he taught me what not to be. Okay. Right? And I respect that from him. I appreciate that. I think my father didn't have a character issue. He had a capacity issue. Okay. I think he gave what he had to give as long as he could give it. And it's generational. So I told myself the generational curse will break with me. And I've been very intentional about that. My boys are 15 and 9, Josiah and Noah. What they taught me was how to be patient, how to persevere, understanding that fatherhood doesn't have a right or wrong. There's a level of forgiveness and grace that comes with being a father. And I've been able to give that not to only the kids I impact, but the people who work for me and with me. And understanding that grace is sufficient. So being able to be patient and understanding that you grow through things. I always tell kids the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. So, and I'm very honest with my kids, like, how can I become a better dad? You know, how do you receive me better? You know, and I got 2 boys, so I parent 2 different ways. And I think it's allowed me to be versatile, understanding that one size don't fit all, and you can't be really concerned about the message as versus you are about how you deliver the message. So when I talk to kids, I talk with the one tone and let that tone fall on ears how it may. But I am flexible. I know that, you know, some people receive it one way and some people don't. And then I pray that the message is heard and just as much as it's felt. Absolutely. So being a dad has been very instrumental and been very methodical and strategic on how to grow and make sure my boys appreciate who I am and who I'm not. I don't talk about the sacrifice I make for my boys, but they see them and they understand them. And it's also to learn how to have a balance with what I do, with who I do it for, right? Make sure my kids know that their daddy's their daddy. You know, even though I have to be a father to other kids, I'm still just their dad. You know what I mean? So being a father has been a blessing. It has taught me more about myself than it has about them. So I'm grateful. Absolutely. I think parenthood grows you if you allow it to. I always feel like my kids are such a blessing to me because they showed me that I did have the capacity of things. They showed me what actually, you know, I have been loved unconditionally, but they showed me how to love unconditionally. And just, you know, a lot of times in my childhood, our generation didn't get a lot of nurturing. I'm not going to say everybody, but we didn't receive a lot of nurturing. And so, like you said, many of your gifts, many of your talents are going to come from places of things you didn't have because you don't want to repeat that cycle. So it showed me how to be more nurturing, how to mold myself for each individual child and not trying to treat each of them the same way because they both have individual needs. And also even with my character, because I know that I always say that I don't care what nobody thinks, but the people that live with me, I care what they think, right? Because they know me. That how I treat them is to me my measure of character, like what type of person I am. Because they're underneath me. When I mean that, like I have control over them, not now, not my son, he's grown, but at that time, and how you treat the people underneath you really tells how your character is. And so, because when you have full control, you can do whatever you want to do. But the restraint from doing that, because you love something or you want to push it and you want to see it to do well and you want to grow it, that is what determines, your value. That's why I said nobody determines your value. I always see stuff about somebody else determining your value. You determine your value. But you do have to do intentional things to do that, like what you do when nobody's looking. And so that's why I always say I can walk with my head up because I know who I am when nobody's there. I know I might not sit here and say I do this, and this, but my kids know it. You know what I'm saying? They know how I show up for them. They know they've seen me at my worst. They see me at my best. And that's what I always like to put a lot of realness to them. Like, I'm having a hard time. I made a mistake about this. I did this right. I do this. But they just grew me just because I allowed them to, I guess. That's part of it.
They mattered enough that I allowed them to. You've also been a teacher. How did that experience prepare you for your current role as an executive director?
It's almost like the fatherhood. Teacher required so much flexibility, so much grace, knowing what hat to wear and when to wear it. It taught me how to navigate spaces that don't look like me and be comfortable in that, and also find comfort in being uncomfortable. the ability to bend and don't break. Teaching is a very unique skill set. I always tell teachers that there is a VIP section in heaven for them. Absolutely. Because I know you have to be, that is a unique passion and purpose that you have to use your life solely to pour into somebody else's. Mm-hmm. So teaching taught me that. Mm-hmm. Teaching taught me how to be grateful and graceful. It taught me how to be bold and, beautiful. It gave me the both ends of the spectrum on how to be something somebody deserves and desires. So I'm grateful for teaching. It was a very unique experience, and I hope I get to teach for the rest of my life. I hope I have that opportunity to be able to pour into people until I'm gone.
Absolutely. I always say that with each role, like it might change how you present it, but if you're a teacher, you're going to do that in some aspect. And so I was telling my dad that the other day. I was like, you're at the stage where you've done what you've done enough, and you have enough experience that there is a way that you can take this and give back. And some of it might be volunteer, but you will be able to make money off of it, because people can't just pay for what you have. Mm-hmm. Your experiences and all the things that you've gone through have prepared you for that.
The Bible says your gift will make way for you.
Absolutely.
So if God gives you a gift, it is your job to use your gift. There's a difference between gifts and talents.
Absolutely.
Right? Gift is something God gives you. Talent is something you have. Mm-hmm. Gift is improved with faith. Talent is improved with hard work. Absolutely. Right? So you have to know the difference and allow both to be in alignment to become a better version of you.
I 100% agree. And so I laugh because it's kind of like the kid teaching their parents something now,
Oh man, you better learn.
And so they're at every stage you can be a teacher, and every stage you can be a learner. Mm-hmm. And I love to learn, because that's how you expand. What challenges have you faced leading a youth outreach program, and how have you overcame them?
One of my biggest challenges is the spectrum of parenting. When you run a program and you implement certain rules, protocols, processes, and structures, you realize that parenting has so much flexibility and so far that some parents don't see that. Mm-hmm. Some parents don't respect that, and it's because they was raised a certain way and they raised their child a certain way. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest issues is being able to try to accommodate and get parents in alignment with who we are. Mm-hmm. Biggest barrier as a nonprofit is just funding, and make sure you have consistent, sustainable funding to do what you do at a bigger and larger rate. Mm-hmm. But we as Sowing Seeds of Faith are really geared towards quantity over quality. Make sure we have a consistent product that is impactful, engaging, important, and significant, not only just for now, but there's a sustainability aspect associated with it. So nonprofit work has its challenges. Again, it's mission-driven work, so you have to know that this is not about money. Absolutely. It has to be about purpose and passion. So understanding that, and then also know you still have to feed your family too. So there's a healthy balance in this world. So them challenges are going to come and go. I believe God doesn't take you out of storms. He joins the storm with you and reminds you that He is God.
Builds you.
One of my big tweetables is, in life, when things get shaky, the first thing we do is run to God, only to realize it was God doing the shaking. Mm-hmm. So you have to stand firm in what you know to be true, right? Absolutely. You have to stand firm in knowing that this too shall pass. Everything has a season and a reason. So God gonna put you through the most. I mean, that's the requirement for elevation, is that I have to know that where I take you to, you can handle it. So nonprofit work tests your gangster every day. Absolutely. It does. It really requires that you.
Anytime you're dealing with people.
Yeah, it really requires that you have to understand that you remind yourself, even in me, this is for a cause.
Absolutely.
So the thing is, pause for the cause. So before you respond, think about it and realize and remember why you're doing it.
Absolutely. One thing you said was just like how God puts you through storms, and then you realize it was Him putting you, like we run to God, mm-hmm. but it's Him putting you through your storm, and how the Bible says He'll trim you back. And it is, when God gets to shaking it up, it's like I deal with anxiety. So my initial response will be like, whew. But what I do is I try to quickly, because that's emotion, I quickly try to go back up to my mental process, because I got to think it through. And so that's why reading the word helps me so much, because I tell myself that no weapon formed against me shall pass. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. And like you said, this too shall pass. And just that God trims back. I go back and I look at all the characters in the Bible and how they went through everything. I love to read Psalms because, like, David was my favorite character because he was just so real. When he got mad, he cried out. Mm-hmm. Like, he didn't, and his cry wasn't always, when he got mad at people, he was like, God, strike him. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He said what he felt, and it's in there. We always want to make the Bible so sweet and nice and like, but that's not real. That's not how people are. And what I liked about him is that he felt comfortable with God. There was this sense of, you know anyway. Mm-hmm. You know, this is what's on my heart. You know, this is how I feel. I'm not going to hold back. And it really goes to tell you about your relationship with God, because I know you. I know that as long as I don't do certain things that, blasphemy is the only thing that's going to cut us off. I'm covered. So I can get upset and I still can't do nothing with you because you got it. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to have to come back humbly. God, forgive me, grow me in that area. And as soon as you start praying for God for elevation, that's when the storms are going to come. And so, and in spite of the storms, be happy. That's why he tells you to shout through them. Mm-hmm. Because elevation is actually coming with those storms. If you ask God for something, be prepared for him to do it. But don't ever think that it's going to be just smooth sailing. Eventually, there'll be a season of that, but Bishop T.D. Jakes says that either you going in a war or you coming out one. And so I just say, like, Lord, how do I need to gear up today? Like, am I coming out one? Is it time to celebrate? Or is it time for me to focus? Is it time for me to make sure that, that I'm in your will? So I think we have one more question. Looking ahead, what is your vision for the future of Sowing Seeds with Faith and the communities it serves?
We plan to build a facility.
That'll be dope.
We plan to build a home that has the abilities to accommodate everything we do, from college tours to teen talks to summer camps to retreats to parent kickbacks. One space that can also be a safe space that have the capacity and the capabilities of giving the community everything it deserves and desires. So that's what we're working on. That's the end goal for me. And this building is the ability to bring cities from across the country here in Louisville to be able to learn from our kids on what it is and how we can collectively come up with an idea and concept that'll change generations to come. And
I absolutely believe that's going to happen. One thing that anytime there's a need, God meets the need. And the children are the future. So if you want to know where you should invest, always invest for what's next. Mm-hmm. If you're planning for just right now, just you and yourself, then you don't plan too far. But when you're planning on blessing children and anything associated with them, believe that God's going to be in it. And I know that you believe it.
And I appreciate the platform and opportunity. So I encourage anybody to look us up at sowingseedswithfaith.org, SOWING Seeds with Faith. Follow us on all platforms on social media, both Instagram and Facebook. Tap in what we have going on, be intentional, figure out what value you can bring to the program and how you can not only make a difference, but be the difference between life and death. I know this organization has so much opportunity for so many people who desire to be impactful and not just important. So if Sowing Seeds of Faith can be that avenue for you, allow it. We here for it. Again, make sure you tap in with us at sowingseedswithfaith.org, SOWING Seeds with Faith.
Absolutely. And I Billy Crazy will be supporting them, and I will be supporting Sowing Seeds of Faith. One, because anything I'm invested in and my children are invested in, I'm going to support it. And then two, anything for the youth, because I love kids. Y'all know, most of y'all that know me know that my family has always loved kids. But you can't just love them. You have to actually do something. It does take interventions, as nurses say. You can't just wake up and believe things are going to be better. And so Sowing Seeds of Faith is definitely a program that is targeted at making your children's future what God expects it to be, bountiful. So